Creating extraordinary success in business and life is absolutely possible. That means more income, more freedom, and more energy for what you value most without the hustle or burnout. I'm Laura Flood, certified success and high performance coach, CEO for over 30 years, and a multiple seven-figure entrepreneur. I've built a profitable, sustainable business while prioritizing my family, my health, and my happiness, and I'm here to help you do the same. This is the Redefining Success podcast, where I'll share the strategies, tools, and the mindset shifts to help you grow with intention, live a life you love, and create lasting happiness, wealth, and freedom without losing yourself in the process. Let's dive in. Welcome back to the Redefining Success podcast. Many successful entrepreneurs eventually reach a stage where the business is thriving, and stepping away from it feels so much harder than expected. Revenue is strong, clients trust your work, and from the outside, it looks like you've built exactly what most people spend years trying to create. The challenge is that your attention remains connected to the business almost all the time. So even when you step away, a part of your mind continues to keep track of what's happening. You might be sitting at dinner with your family and suddenly remember a conversation that still needs to happen. Or while driving somewhere, you start weighing out the pros and cons of a decision in your head. Or later in the evening, when you finally have a chance to sit down and try to relax, a negotiation from earlier in the day just keeps coming back to your mind. The workday has ended, but your business still occupies so much space in your mind. I know that you've worked incredibly hard to build what you have. I'm sure that there were years of long hours, difficult decisions, and pushing through uncertainty to create the level of success that you're experiencing right now. At some point, though, you probably expected it to start feeling easier. You might even catch yourself wondering quietly, shouldn't this feel better by now? Another thought many successful entrepreneurs admit privately is that they expected to be further along by this stage. Not necessarily financially, but more in the sense of how success would feel day to day. Many successful entrepreneurs, they're not exhausted from the hours that they work. They're exhausted from the weight of carrying the business in their head all of the time. For a long time in my own career, I interpreted this experience as part of success. When I started building my real estate business way back in 1995, the industry looked very different from what we see today. There weren't smartphones, texting, or social media. We didn't have digital contracts, or at that point, we didn't even have an online MLS at that time. Transactions required constant coordination of phone calls between clients, lenders, inspectors, and other agents. And I remember this so well. If a client had a fax machine, it was amazing. It meant I didn't have to drive across town just to get a quick signature. Communication back then happened through phone calls, meetings, and detailed client follow-up. And that's just the way it was before technology evolved. I worked hard, and my reputation grew through that responsiveness and personal involvement. And, honestly, those habits shaped how my business operated. I built really strong relationships with clients. I handled negotiations personally, and I stayed closely involved in every transaction, even though I had a team. My referrals increased and opportunities expanded. My business grew steadily for so many years. From the outside, it looked exactly like the type of success people work towards. And that approach worked really well until it didn't. While running the business, something else was happening. Even when everything was progressing smoothly, my attention was always connected to it. Part of my mind was always tracking something. I would be thinking about a deal that was approaching closing or a conversation scheduled for the following day. It felt like I was always thinking about decisions that I needed to make. And at that time, I believed that level of engagement simply came with success. Years later, after building additional businesses and coaching so many entrepreneurs, I began seeing the same patterns repeatedly. I've coached so many talented people who have built impressive companies. Their businesses generated strong revenue and their reputations in the market were really well established. Their internal experience sounded almost identical to what I went through. I would hear from clients over and over again that their attention and focus were always on the business. They felt like they could never turn it off. And even during their time off and away, they felt this awareness running in the background, and they couldn't help but wonder what was happening inside the company. That pattern eventually led me to something that I now call the constant performance loop. The constant performance loop is this invisible pressure that forms when success requires your ongoing attention, and it's when you feel so much responsibility to maintain momentum just to keep everything moving forward. Most of the time, what I see is, clients, they're providing excellent service and their revenue continues to grow. Their companies really do perform well, but they can never turn their businesses off. It's always running in the back of their mind. And once someone recognizes this pattern, the question changes. Instead of asking how to manage everything better, a different thought begins forming. They want to know how the business should operate as it continues to grow. They want to know how can they keep getting the same or even better results without feeling anxious when they want to take a weekend off or close their laptop at 4 p.m. This opens the door to a new stage of leadership, and that's what we're going to talk about in today's episode. Once you understand the idea of the constant performance loop, the next question becomes practical. How do you know if this is happening in your business? And the signals, they're usually quiet. And most of the time, what I see is when the business is producing results, there is little reason to question how things operate. But if you slow down and really start to pay attention, certain experiences tend to appear consistently. The first signal is mental carryover. This is when your workday ends, even though part of your attention continues thinking about the business throughout the night. Ideas surface while you're driving, or a conversation from earlier in the day just keeps replaying in your mind. And you can't help but think about your plans for tomorrow when what you really want is to be focused and present at your kid's ball game. Your mind stays connected because the business still lives there. The second signal involves decision traffic. There is a large percentage of decisions that move through you on a daily basis. Clients want your input. Situations pause until you weigh in. Information and processes often live in your head rather inside the structure of the business. You're not only leading the company, you're also holding the operating manual. The third signal appears when you try to step away. Time off, it becomes possible, but your awareness continues monitoring what might be happening. You check messages briefly and confirm a situation's moving forward, or you review something quickly before disconnecting, telling your family, hold on, I just need to send this one email and then I'll be ready. I lived there for years. The structure still requires your attention to maintain momentum. And when these signals appear together, the constant performance loop is usually active. And recognizing this pattern often means your business is ready to evolve. There's another part of this experience that entrepreneurs rarely talk about openly. As your business becomes successful, the income it generates begins to support far more than just the company itself. Your family depends on it, and your lifestyle reflects the success that you've created. Decisions about where you live, how you spend your time, and even the opportunities you provide for the people closest to you, they all connect back to the business continuing to perform. That responsibility, it quietly shapes how you think about the business. Your mind stays attentive because you understand and know how much is connected to its success. Many entrepreneurs notice this pressure most clearly near the end of the year or the end of a quarter. You take a look at your business and you review what the business produced, the revenue, the number of clients served, and all of that growth that you worked so hard to create. But then you can't help but think, how will I generate that amount of success again next year or next quarter? You already know that you can produce results. The tension comes from recognizing how much of the business still depends on your attention. If you recognize yourself in this conversation, I want you to pause for a moment and consider something important. The same qualities that built your success are often the reason that this pattern develops. You respond quickly and you solve problems efficiently. You always take so much ownership of the results. Clients trust you because of those qualities, and your momentum continues to grow because you're showing up consistently. You're the one who makes decisions and keeps complicated situations moving forward. And because you're so capable of handling these responsibilities, the business just continues to operate this way. During the early stages of building a business, your involvement in everything, it makes total sense. You learn what works and you build relationships with clients and refine the quality of work that you deliver. Your attention becomes one of the reasons the business succeeds. But at a certain point, remaining that involved in everything, it begins to shape the experience of success in a really different way. Your mind stays connected continuously. Even when you step away, a part of your awareness continues to monitor the business. This is where I guide clients to really examine their business from a new perspective. The goal is not to work harder inside the company you've already built. The goal is to design the business so it operates differently and it allows your attention to move forward in areas that really require your leadership. Areas like strategy and vision and high-level decisions, the aspects of the business that only you can guide. As the structure of your business evolves, something changes internally too. You can finally give your attention to one project without mentally tracking several others at the same time. Time away from work, it begins to feel different. And many entrepreneurs describe this moment as the first time success feels the way they imagined it would. The business continues to produce results, clients remain well served, and the difference really lies in the experience of leading it. Success becomes so much easier to carry because your attention is no longer constantly required. You have systems in place and you actually have some white space and margin in your calendar. If you're listening to this episode and recognizing parts of your own experience, you're likely standing at an important leadership transition. You've already proven that you can build something successful. But what comes next is refining how your business operates so you can get more of your life back. And that's exactly the work we do inside the Redefining Success Method Intensive. During this 6-week intensive, we examine how your business is currently operating. We take the time to identify where the constant performance loop is active and also where your attention is still holding parts of the operation together where it doesn't need to. From there, we begin refining the structure of your business so it can continue to produce results without requiring you to feel like you have to always be on. The goal is not to reduce your ambition. The goal is to help the business evolve so success can continue expanding while your attention becomes more available again for the things that matter most. If this conversation resonated with you, the details for the Redefining Success Method Intensive are in the show notes. Thanks again for spending this time with me today. I will see you next week on the Redefining Success podcast.